Hi everyone, I want to welcome everybody today. We're going to go ahead and get ready to get started. So to start off, my name is Abby Williams. I am the Events and Programs Assistant at the Lancaster Chamber. I want to thank you guys for joining us today for the lunch and learn all about hiring and retaining employees. I'm just going to touch on a few things and then I'm going to pass this off for the presentation. So first, as a chamber, we want to thank everybody on the front lines during this pandemic, all the healthcare workers and everybody keeping the community going. I want to thank you for your service. I also want to encourage you to go over to the Chamber's website and sign up for our emails. It's the best space to get most up-to-date information on webinars, topics we're covering, community updates, and even just company updates. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, PSECU. Without them, we would not be able to hold this program today. And I also want to remind you that after this webinar, probably at the end of the day, I'll send out a copy of the recording of today's session, as well as all of the materials used in the session. And I also want to kind of encourage you to go towards the chat box, put any questions you have in there, make sure they're going to all panelists. That ensures that all of us see it so that somebody can address your question and can do it at the end during the Q&A session. Now I'm going to turn it over to our sponsor, PSECU.
Thank you, Abby, and good morning. I'm Deb Perini, Business Development Manager with PSECU, the State Employees Credit Union, and we're proud to be a sponsor of the Lancaster Chamber's Professional Development Forum. So I'd like to start by asking a rhetorical question. Are financially stressed out employees good for business? Of course not, right? Employees who bring their financial worries to work tend to be less productive, less engaged, and they can even raise employer health care costs. To address this issue, employers are now adding financial wellness programs to their employee benefits package. Employers who offer these types of programs can reduce absenteeism or presenteeism, as well as disability and workmen's compensation costs. That's because poor financial management causes stress, which can set the stage for medical problems. Financial wellness programs also reduce the employee's need to borrow against their retirement savings, thus preventing delayed retirement. So overall, employees, they have higher satisfaction knowing that their employers care about their financial health. They have less physical illness due to lower stress, higher productivity and morale at work, and of course, financial security. So how can PSECU help? Employers may offer PSECU as a free employee benefit by becoming what's called a select employer group, or SEG. With the partnership, you can take advantage of everything PSECU has to offer as a full-service financial institution. And that includes our free financial education program entitled Wallet Works. Some examples of the program topics we offer are budgeting, how to read and understand a credit report, and how a credit report can impact your life, identity theft, how to avoid it and how to overcome it. Or if there's something specific that you'd like presented, we can personalize a presentation for your team. And why partner with PSECU and become a select employer group? We are one of the oldest and largest credit unions in Pennsylvania. Our members consistently report high satisfaction in member service. And as a nonprofit, PSECU puts our members first ahead of stockholders. And PSECU handles enrollment, administration, and more. And again, this is all free for you. So if you'd like to learn more about offering the credit union as a free employee benefit, we encourage you to go to psecu.com/becomeaseg, and become a SEG is hyphenated. And thank you for your time and attention. And Abby, we're ready for the video. Thank you.
At PSECU, we follow the credit union philosophy of people helping people. As a not-for-profit financial institution, we help our members keep more of their money where it belongs, with them. We also use our corporate social responsibility platform to help build healthy and vibrant communities across the Commonwealth. No matter where members live or work, we're their easy-to-access virtual local branch. It's easy to take us along everywhere: home, work, the office, or vacation. We make anywhere, anytime access a priority. Our easy-to-use and low to no-fee products and services empower you to lead a better life, no matter what type of industry you work in, and no matter where you call home. From our convenient online and mobile banking tools to our financial education resources and low-rate loans, our members recognize us as their trusted financial partner for life, wherever they go. Because you work at one of our select employer groups, you're now eligible to take advantage of the services that we provide. Plus, there is no fee to open or maintain an account. After you join, your family is even eligible to join as well. Visit psccu.com/member to join our credit union.
All right, so with that being said, I'm going to turn this program over to our amazing speakers.
Great. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Beverley Doody, and I am a certified mentor with SCORE, which is an organization that helps businesses get started and grow in the Lancaster-Lebanon area. It's part of a national organization, and I've been very pleased to be part of this not-for-profit for just over a year now. In my other life, I have a background in human resources, having spent 32 years with Armstrong World Industries, a Lancaster-based organization, and moved here from the UK about 6 years ago. So I'll say right up front, if I use some strange words, do ask the question in chat or in Q&A what I'm talking about. But my husband and I are really enjoying living in Lancaster, really beautiful place to be a part of. So for this presentation that we're going to be talking about, it's going to be around managing talent in a post-COVID world. And let's hope that very quickly we'll be moving into some sort of new normality going forward. Webinars can be difficult because it can be hard to engage people. So we're going to be using some new technology today. It's new to a number of us. And you'll see in the top left corner, there's a little note here that says to make this an interactive presentation, please log into www.menti.com from a mobile device. So this is the only time you can use your phone while we're on this webinar, and enter the code 473441. And while you're doing that, there will be a prompt at some point when we get to the survey piece, and we can actually then get you to use that technology so that I can hear from you in real time. So if we move on to the agenda for today, this is really around what are we going to do with our talent. We are in unprecedented times. There's a lot of pressure on people, on businesses, on finances. It's a tough environment that we're finding ourselves in. So we will be going through a little bit to talk about where are we right now. Also spend a little bit of time on business impact. And I want to note here that there will be some tools in the appendices that I won't go through today, but which when you get the deck, you'll be able to look at, which help you work through both the business impact in terms of finance, but also some people decisions. So I'll hang that out there and I'll refer to it again towards the end of the session today. But the core is really around how do you manage your talent? And you may be surprised that the first bullet point there is your role as a leader. For me, a leader is anybody who turns up and makes a decision to make a contribution every day. You don't have to have people reporting to you to be a leader. Your energy, your passion, your positivity can make a huge difference. So there'll be a number of slides going through and discussing the impact that you can personally have on how your teammates feel, how your employees feel, how your customers feel. We're going to talk a little bit around how you plan your talent needs. There could be a resurgence of the virus, which we hope isn't going to happen, but how do we manage through that uncertainty that we're seeing at the moment? I also want to give you some tips on building your talent pool. And it may be a strange thing again for you to think about, building a pool. You are the face of your organization. You meet hundreds of people every day, even during this pandemic, at the petrol station, the gas station, I should say, when you go to the dentist, when you go to have your hair done or whatever. All of these are people that you want to give a positive impression to around your business and what it's like to work with you or your organization. We're going to go a little bit into hiring the right people. Again, a few tips here. Building the offer in terms of compensation items you may want to consider. And then how do we keep this talent? the economy will improve, we will bounce back, we will be going in an upward trajectory again at some point in time. The last thing we want to do is lose the talent that we do have because we didn't look after them well. A little note about support in terms of what SCORE as a chapter can help with, and then chance for some Q&A as well. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. So I'm going to take you on a journey. And this journey started about 6 months ago when the Chamber asked me to do a presentation. Now, if you can remember back to February, the world was a very different place. We had an historic labour shortage. We were really struggling to get the right talent so that people could grow their businesses. New hires were costing more. There was stress internally for equity on pay. And people were moving jobs and growing and going into different directions. And then March hit. And I had to rewrite my presentation because the world changed. So let's look at where we are now. We're now in a situation where we are struggling to keep financially sound. We are trying our best to get to some sort of upturn with our economy, but we're in the doldrums. You know, we do have a level of uncertainty. So the peak of the US economy happened in February. March, things really started to, unfortunately, grow in terms of the impact of the pandemic. And in April, the national unemployment rate was at 14.7%, which was actually mirrored in Lancaster, and in Pennsylvania, as you can see, it was even higher. So we can move on. So let's talk a little bit about how the pandemic has actually hit your business. A lot of it has been a challenge, that's for sure, but we've had to morph into maybe new products, new services, new ways of doing things, maybe even a new business model. Certainly, we've had to look at cost structures. What can we afford? How can we be more economical? How can we balance the books, essentially, and still be a profitable business? I'd like to ask you to think about also what you've learned about the work that you and your employees have been doing. Did you find, and I know that I found this myself, that sometimes you've been doing work because you always did it, rather than that work adding value to the business? It's comfort work, it's maybe easier work, but it's led us to question what are our work priorities and what do we need to do that will really impact the bottom line as opposed to just be something that we do. So what smarter ways have you found to operate? What work practices have changed? I also want you to think about, obviously with my HR background, what has this meant for your employees? With the introduction, and I want to thank Abby for that introduction, you know, we do thank people who are on the front line and doing some very, very tough work. We've had to learn some new skills. Those people who weren't tech savvy have had to become tech savvy. We've got remote teams, we have home working, often with children in the background who are being homeschooled. Maybe we've had to think about cross-training, maybe having someone else to be able to do the key things that we can do and vice versa. And of course, the big concern about safety, health, and welfare. This has been a very stressful time for employees' mental health, financial health, and managing, looking after kids who also, you know, have suffered, and elderly parents and so on. I also want you to think about what's the pandemic meant for you as a leader. Now, in my other life, I am a coach, and I try to coach people through how do we look for, how we find some glimmer of light in this situation to move forward. The key thing, though, is to really acknowledge what people are going through. I would never suggest that you say, I understand what you're going through. I don't walk in your shoes. I can't understand what you're going through, but I can be empathetic and say, it's not surprising you feel concerned or worried, etc. And often just acknowledging that concern, speaking, as we would say in England, about the elephant in the room, can really help release tension with employees. Also think about what's worked well, what hasn't worked at all, and maybe are there things you found that you'll keep doing post-COVID, better ways of operating, smarter ways of operating. And then really the key, how, when things do pick up, how do we grow the business again? How do we rescale? What do we do about adding employees? How do we manage this in a very uncertain world? So if we could look at the next slide, who would have thought 6 months ago we would have so much conversation about disinfectant, plexiglass, curbside pickup, wipes, virtual working, masks, social distancing? The world has really changed dramatically in these last 6 months. So we're going to move to our first question now with the Menti poll. So again, just as a reminder, on your phone, if you're on a computer now, use your phone. If you're on a computer now, use your tablet, and go into www.menti.com and enter the code 473441. And this question will pop up. So we're going to move to that now. And as you enter your concerns, we will see them pop up on the screen. So Kathy, who is my wingman driving this, let's have a look. The bigger words are the words that are used more often. More of your concerns. So retention of top talent, productivity, people connections, ghosting, yep, that can be a problem. Transportation, hiring, growth, productivity. Okay, a few more coming in. I'll get you used to using this, so the next poll will go very, very smoothly. Okay, engagement, stability, yeah, that's a very, very big one. Finding the right talent and keeping the right talent. That's great. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation again, the formal presentation. Thank you, Kathy. I'm just really delighted the technology worked. We're making progress. We're learning as well as we go through. So my next slide is really where I want to start putting that foundation in place. So a lot of companies have a mission, a vision, and values. The mission, the vision, and values is really the foundation of an organization. What is that business there to achieve? What are the values that you pride yourself on? And what are your principles? You may be looking to secure talent, attract talent. That talent may be asking you, what did you do during the COVID outbreak to look after your employees? So your vision, your mission, and your values are really the core foundation of your organization. And I would suggest we should be using that as we plan for the future. So firstly, do these values hold true in the life post-COVID? And I want to give you a little bit of an example here. And this is where values are really important. A lot of companies have a very nice statement about how they look after employees, how they wish to grow and develop employees, how they look after their employees. But there have been some incidences where there's been maybe a knee-jerk reaction and the training department's been cut, pay's been cut, extracurricular activities have been cut. And one thing I would say to you is look back at your actions and look at your future actions and just say, are these in line with your values as an organization? how you treat people is one of the key ways that you continue to retain employees and engage employees. One thing I would say is make decisions kindly. We have to make some tough decisions, but if we make those kindly with our values in mind, I've actually had people, would you believe, in my previous life, where I worked in industry, thank me for how I made them redundant. And it's all around the values that you have and how you treat people, how you respect people, and how you deliver the difficult conversation. So let's move on to the next slide and employee planning. And here on the bottom right, I found this graphic and I thought it was really apt for our current situation. We've got to rethink. We have to be innovative. We want to inspire our employees to stay with us and grow with us. And as the businesses pick up, attract more employees. And I mentioned at the start that there are going to be two very, very useful things in the appendix, which you'll get from this presentation, around modeling your business and costs at the moment during the COVID times. And I would suggest you look at what you feel is a realistic business case, a better business case, and a best business case, both in terms of what that means for your business, for your income, for your revenue, but also what that means for your talent, being very intentional about how you bring in talent and grow talent is critical. What the business can afford, that's a huge thing, of course, at the moment. I would also counter with what must the business afford when it comes to engaging and retaining employees. Many companies have fantastic marketing plans, social media campaigns, manufacturing plans, all these great plans. Without your people, you don't have any plans because you cannot execute. Very key that you prioritize the people that you have, the right people with the right work ethic in the right positions. Maybe you've had to downscale a little bit, and maybe you're looking to eventually start to upscale again in terms of your work numbers. Getting the right people in those roles is really, really critical. And as I mentioned before, if you do have to make some harsh or tough decisions, do it in line with your values and do it kindly and do it with grace, respecting the people that you need to make the decisions around. Now more than ever is the time to address poor performance. If you are finding that you have been carrying people, if people have not been, really doing what you need them to do, you need to have a hard look at what your business needs and how you can get that person back on track. Have that difficult conversation. It's always worth it. I promise you, it's always worth it. But if they are not the right person, then move ahead in line with your values in terms of how you move forward. Cross-training. Having a workforce that can actually work with many more different skills is great in terms of growth for the employees. It's also great in terms of security for you and your business, knowing that it's not just Beverley that can do the work. It's not just Abby that can do the work. Knowing that Beverley and Abby could both turn their hand to that is really critical. So again, when you get the presentation through, do think about that as you're planning your employees and your workforce. Address employee safety and emotional concerns. And I mentioned before about just acknowledging the elephant in the room. It's not surprising you feel the way you feel. The pandemic has hit us all hard. So you're acknowledging that that's a real feeling, and that's how employees are feeling. Consider flexible work approaches. I think we've already had to do that with people working at home. Maybe the wife is working in the evening because she's looking after children during the day, or maybe the husband is doing that and they're switching roles because they're both working. So maybe being flexible, excuse me, in terms of how you look at the normal working day. Above all, communication is really important. One of the biggest things I think that's on people's minds at the moment as employees is, will I still have a job tomorrow? Can I still pay my rent? So, be intentional about how you communicate with your employees. Even if you don't know the answer yet, talking to them about what you don't know is better than not talking to them at all. Because if you don't talk to them, they'll make up their own stuff. So do think about how you communicate. Maybe it's a regular touch point because people are working at home. Think intentionally about how you do this. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide here. And this one is really lots of reading for you to do, but I did some research around what other companies are doing when it comes to emerging from COVID and working in what they're now calling a post-COVID world. And when you click on the links here, you'll be able to pull up these articles and, hopefully get some more tips around what you can do intentionally in terms of retaining, engaging, and communicating with your employees. So now we're going to go back to our technology again. So get your phones at the ready and go back to Menti. So again, a reminder, www.menti.com. And the access code is 473441. And we go into our next question. And Kathy is driving for me. Thank you, Kathy. And the next question is going to be around leadership attributes. Looks like maybe we have a problem, Kathy.
Sorry, I'm not able to advance, Beverly.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Wait,
so
got it.
You've got it, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so the next question that I want to ask you through Menti is, which new leadership attributes do you need in this climate? So again, please go to your phones, go to www.menti.com, use the codes that's shown here, and just give me some ideas of what you think you need to be as a leader, what attributes you need to cope with this climate. And I think you can have up to 3 goes. I think it's exciting to see this thing magically appearing in front of our eyes. And again, just to mention, the bigger the word, the more often it's been used by you guys sending that in. So let's see what's coming through. Flexibility, absolutely. I mentioned before that your role as leader is critical. Being flexible is absolutely important. And we've got here added understanding. Everyone is struggling, particularly I feel for those with younger families who are homeschooling. One of my clients at school has 6 sons, and both her and her husband work. Imagine doing homeschooling for 6 children at the same time as trying to hold down 2 jobs. Okay, so we have communication, we have learning mindset, compassion, absolutely, I love that, absolutely. Empathy, my eyesight's not so good here. Let me pull that up a little bit more, move that over so I can see more. Okay, it's better. So increased flexibility, resilience, oh my goodness, absolutely, resilience. People are looking to you and how you lead. They are watching you as a role model. Are you there with your head in your hands? Are you there thinking, okay, we have to move forward, we have to do something, I have to be a leader? Humility, is that, no, humanity? Humility, another nice word. Patience, oh my goodness, yes, absolutely, patience. Okay, good example, role model, absolutely. So let's go back to the presentation again, and thank you for taking part in that. It's cool technology. So we're learning all the time as well. So when it comes to your role as leader, I put down a few things here, and the thing I really want you to take away is, I think, an amazing quote by Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So I love the words that came up in the word cloud that you had. And here's just a few tips that good leaders are doing to embrace the current climate. So focusing on trust versus micromanaging. What I found moving over here from the UK is that home working was much more prevalent in the UK, and maybe people didn't feel quite so comfortable in the US allowing people to work from home. I know at my last company, it was very much, no, I've got to see you so I can trust you. So focusing on trust is critical. Leading with transparency about what you know. And I mentioned before, even if you tell them you don't know, best that you're having that communication rather than someone else getting involved in making up their own communication. The thing I like as well about leading with transparency is that you can ask the team what they're thinking, what ideas they have. You're getting very strong at building that team connectivity, which is critical. Somebody else also put down resilience under the word cloud we just looked at. So yes, showing resilience. If you sit there head in hands, oh my goodness. But if you say, okay, we have a challenge here. Let's think through the options we have. How can we move forward? Again, people take the lead from you. If you're doom and gloom, they might be doom and gloom. If you're positive, it's contagious. Okay. We also had, I think you guys must have been looking at my slides ahead of this presentation, but we also had empathy that came up in the word cloud, demonstrating empathy and kindness to their teams. Not sort of, we're working at home, we don't talk to each other, not leaving people thinking and being fearful about what the future is. And being the champion of change versus the victim of change. Now, what I don't expect and what I wouldn't recommend is rah, 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 this is absolutely fantastic, what an opportunity, because that doesn't feel real. But saying, okay, we have a challenge now, let's get our collective heads together, how can we move forward, what's going to work for us going forward. So just a few tips you can think about as a leader, and as I said, that's not a leader of having people reporting to you, but just anyone who turns up with that positive mindset can make a huge difference to the climate of the organization that you either run or you're part of. So let's move on to the next thing about building the talent pool. Even though we are a little bit in a situation of uncertainty, I've spoken to a couple of recruitment agencies in preparation for this, and they're saying good talent is still hard to find. Or maybe I should rephrase that, the right talent for the roles you have is still a challenge. So think smartly about your talent. Always be on the lookout for the right talent. Think about if people do reach out to you on social media, respond. And it might just be something that you have in your up your sleeve. Thank you so much for reaching out. Would love to join you on LinkedIn. And there's a very neat way you can pull all of your connections on LinkedIn into a spreadsheet. That might be a topic for another webinar, but then you've got a bank of people that you can call to as and when things change and grow, but always be on the lookout for opportunity to network with the right people. Speed of response is critical when hiring. You may find the right person with the right skills may still get several offers. Don't drag your feet. Remember, it's not all about pay. is about how you made them feel when they went through the interview process. Manage your local brand. You know, thanks to our sponsor for today, that says something about that credit union, that they are sponsoring this event and giving back to their community. Those things go a long way. You know, your local presence in the community, an employer of choice. You want people to think, yes, I want to go and work for that company. In the current climate, think about flexible hiring options. Maybe it's temporary employees, maybe it's contractors, maybe it's retired people who want to come back and do some part-time work. Think differently about your talent. Students still are looking for traineeships. And I've seen that work really well in terms of getting a traineeship. They then graduate from college or whatever, and they become one of your team, maybe not now, but permanently next year once they graduated. And there are also some excellent programs that you can actually get great employees from, and people who have maybe in their early years, you know, gone off the wrong course, but they've now gone through a program to be rehabilitated and be ready to get back in to make a contribution in the workforce. The next slide is something that is not high tech. A lot of companies, bigger companies, will have what's called an ATS, which is an applicant tracking system, where people feed in their resumes and they're weeded in or weeded out before they get to their first interview. A lot of smaller companies can't afford to do that. So again, when you get a copy of this deck, this is just a way in which you can manage your talent. Be very intentional about the skills you want. Be very intentional about the soft skills in particular. And this is a way of helping you, because you can get a lot of people applying for opportunities at the moment, help you weed through who you want to bring for interview. Anybody that meets the spec that you have said you are looking for should be interviewed. I've heard various stories, and this is again from the UK, where there was something like 500 people apply for one bar job. You have to be able to manage that flow. So here's just an example of having a spreadsheet with your key skills that you really need for that role to help you manage and be intentional about who you shortlist for an interview. Also have an end date if you do post a job, because if you leave it open-ended, you're going to be forever trying to look at candidates for this role. So just a little tip there that you can use. The thing for me that's really important though when you consider hiring is on the next slide, which is around soft skills. Oh, have I jumped? We missed one. Not to worry, we'll go on to this one. So hiring the right, it's fine, Kathy. Hiring the right talent helps you, you've got to think about the soft skills people need in the organization. So we can all look at a resume. We can all look at, they've had, you know, they got a high school diploma, their GPA is whatever, they've worked here, they've worked there, whatever it might be. But how are they going to be as part of your team? How are they going to connect with your culture that's spelled out in your vision and your mission and your values? Are they a team player? So here are just some questions you might want to ask at an interview. And again, there are lots of behavioral questions that you can pull from the internet or whatever, but the behavioral questions help you get to the right person with the right mindset, the right work ethic, the right teamwork side, which will help you get a better hire. So just imagine I'm asking you this question now. I'm actually interviewing you. Tell me about a time when you had to work closely with someone whose personality was very different from yours. Be very watchful of the response that they give you. Are you hiring somebody that upsets the team? Are you hiring somebody who meshes with the team? And so on. In this climate, ability to adapt. Tell me about a time you failed. How did you deal with the situation? What did you learn? So it's not asking them about their degree. It's not asking them about their education. It's asking them about real life work situations and how did they cope and deal with it. One that I also think is very important is around motivation and values. Describe a time when you saw some problem and you took the initiative to correct it rather than waiting for someone else to do it. That tells you a lot about the caliber of the person in front of you and whether they're going to be a real addition to your organization and make a difference. And then finally, this is a question that when I was speaking to a couple of agencies earlier this month, and they said, one question that's often being asked now is, what did you do during the pandemic to increase your skills and knowledge base? So I thought that was a real killer question for an employer. You know, what have you done to grow? There are so many courses that are available, often at little to no cost, on the internet. What did you do to actually continue your growth as an employee during that period of time? Okay, moving on to the next slide. And this is really just building on this whole idea of having the right soft skills when you're hiring people. These things cost nothing. Someone who's on time, someone who makes an effort, someone being high energy, having a positive attitude, being passionate about what they do, good body language. Your customers want people with good body language, being coachable, going that extra mile, being prepared, and having a strong work ethic. Now, I want to share a story with you that many years ago, when I was still in the UK, I did some interviews for a local school. And it was students coming up to 17, 18 years of age. And I interviewed this young woman who, very, very bright. She was going to ace all of her qualifications. And I asked her about, how much time she'd had away from school. And she had had something crazy like 5 weeks away during the school year because, she didn't feel too well, or, she just didn't want to get up in the morning or whatever it might be. So I gave her the feedback that, you're going to do so well with your academic qualifications, but what employers want to know is that, are you going to turn up every day? Are you going to make an effort? Are you going to be here? Because we don't pay you to be at home off sick or allegedly off sick. We pay you to be working and making a contribution. Okay, so let's move on. We're getting towards the end of the presentation here, not too far to go now. Think about how we are going to attract people and keep people with us. Retention and engagement came up quite a few times when we did the first word cloud. We can't all or always put it in base pay. Sometimes the math doesn't work out. What I would say is don't go cheap, because if you do offer something that is below market rate, as and when the economy picks up and wage demand picks up, you could end up being in the situation where you have to start all over again with your recruitment, and you lose time, you lose institutional knowledge, you lose customer value by changing out an employee. So, but there are many different components when it comes to the benefits and compensation package. So obviously people think about wages and base pay, maybe something to do with performance-related bonus. As you emerge, let's share some of the success with our employees. Sign-on bonus, use less at the moment, but it can be used to get that right person on board. So maybe you have a scenario where you can't offer the base they want year one, but you could do a sign-on. And then once you've seen what they can deliver for your business, the following year when it comes to reviewing salary, you can then do more on the base side of things. But not everybody is motivated by money. Let's look at how people are with their family circumstances. Sometimes having some time off with the family, going away for a long weekend and having the Friday and the Monday too, can actually be really great for the employee's mindset, their stress relief, They're getting some quality time. It works well for them. Think about flexi time. There's one organization that I know that actually don't expect people to work 9 to 5. You work what you need to work in order to get the job done. And if that means you want to go to an event that the school's hosting, which hopefully they'll start to host again soon, you do that. And I'm going to trust you that you'll make up the time and deliver the work that needs to be done, but I'm going to allow you the flexibility to do that. Think of smaller, low-cost things that might just say thank you to people. People get excited about people remembering their birthdays, and it might just be a birthday card or an electronic one, or everybody, getting people on a Zoom call, and then, you all sing happy birthday, very badly at the top of your voice. Something that says, I notice you, I value you. That is really huge when it comes to employee motivation. Virtual happy hours, I've been on a couple myself, which have just been fun. And maybe the odd gift card for a job well done. Think about that. And as we emerge out of COVID, how else can we use technology to enable a flexible workforce? For those of you who have policies around not working from home, going through COVID, we've had to change. Why not? Why can't we do that? Why can't we equip people to be flexible as long as they know they have to deliver against their goals? Okay. I've put a takeaway also at the bottom of this slide here. Do budget for hiring and retaining talent as you rescale your business. One way to make sure that you're really connecting with your employees through one-on-ones. There's even a way that you can have a conversation around their intentions in a very engaging way, but showing attention to employees, listening to employees, checking in is a great way to ensure you minimize the risk of potentially losing talent when the economy picks up a little bit more. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Ongoing engagement. If you're having a new employee start, and I've had a few that I've come across with my coaching business, especially if they're starting remotely, this requires you to think differently about how you engage people. They say the first 6 weeks of any new employment is the most critical time for that employee to bond with your organization. So effective onboarding starts before the start date. You've hired the person, they've got a start date in 2 weeks. The week before you're in contact with them. This can help with making sure that the person does start with you. You are sending them in advance a few things we're going to cover in the first week or so. You might get some team members to send them a welcome note, something that just sort of says, we're excited about you coming, we're excited about you starting. Make sure they have technology that's with them for day one, if they are going to be remote working. Make sure you share with them what your business is about, not just the actual function of the business, but the vision, mission, and values of the business. And start to talk to them about their goals, and they will be very straightforward goals in the first instance. It's often listening and learning when they first start, connecting with team members, often can be the way of starting that. When you're thinking about financial planning, do budget for development. And you might be thinking, what? Are you crazy? In this climate, we can't afford that? My response to that would be, you have to afford it. 94% of people have said they would stay with their organization or their company if that organization or company invested in their development. And that doesn't have to be thousands of dollars. It can be intentional experiences that you are giving your employees. So again, they're growing, they're developing, and every time they're growing and developing, they're engaging with you more and more. We are not in the situation these days so much where there were big career hierarchies, that you do this for 2 years, you go here for 2 years, you go up the ladder here. A lot of development now is lateral, moving into other types of roles, but also very, very valuable in terms of development for your employees. The next point I really can't stress enough, trust and connection is huge. If you have trust and connection, then that is the underpinning of all of your relationships with your employees. It's two-way communication. It's not just you speaking to them, it's you listening in an active way to what they're saying to you. There's a phrase, listen to the end of the sentence, listen to understand rather than listen to respond. So practice your active listening skills so that you're really hearing what your employees are saying to you. And then recognize people for great work. Very useful, easy formula here. Situation, behavior, feedback. This was a situation. This is what you did, Mary, Joe, Fred. I'm thrilled with what you did. It made such a difference. The customer turned around and placed an order. You know, you improved that system. Whatever it might be, a genuine, appreciative piece of recognition goes a long way. And I love this quote again by Richard Branson. Clients do not come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. So times are tough, I do recognize that, but investment in talent remains critical. All your plans depend on having the right talent to execute. Okay, so in summary, a few things I would like you just to think about as you walk away from this webinar. Be true to your company purpose and values in all the decisions you make. Attention to employee needs. At the moment, very much around health, welfare, and the safety of employees, and of course customers, but this focus is very much on your talent, this presentation. It is paramount that you're known as the employer that cares and thinks about the welfare of your employees, particularly during these stressful times. Adapt your operating model for the business today, but also the business tomorrow. And again, when we get to the, when you see the presentation and you see the appendices, a couple of tools in there that you can use. Talent is available, but be intentional about what you're looking for in terms of the right talent, the right skills, the right work ethic, and the right positions. Getting that match right is really critical. And just a word down the bottom here about SCORE Lancaster-Lebanon. We're here to help. This is, free advice and guidance in terms of your business and growing your business. We do have some workshops that have a very minimal fee, but you can have a mentor that can be assigned to you for no cost, just as a sounding board, if nothing else, as you start to work through your planning for now and for the longer term. And I think we all recognize we're in a different world. What got you to here may not get you there. So with that, I'll pause and then go into any questions that we may have from the participants, please. So Abby, I'll pass it over to you.
So as of right now, if you guys want to put your questions in the chat, please feel free to. If not, and we don't have any questions, I can include some contact information or anything you might need if you have questions after the fact. So if you have any,
fine.
throw them in the chat now. We'll give it a minute, and if not, then we'll let everybody go early. So somebody asked that they said they're curious how many people companies are hiring. So what's the hiring climate right now?
It's mixed from my experience. And I think you find that it depends which industry you're in as well. If you're in the pharmaceutical industry, you're likely to be hiring. If you're in food retail, you're likely to be hiring. If you're in clothing retail, apparel, you're probably not hiring. So the hiring market has changed. So different companies will be and different companies won't be. And that can help you, in terms of guiding, where people are looking. So it is mixed. You can get a lot of applicants. That's why I put the tool in there to help sort of really weed out what it is, the people that you want to interview. But it's a mixed picture, to be honest, and it's very industry specific. The restaurant trade, of course, really hardly hit, isn't hiring as much now. But medical is tending to, pharmaceutical is tending to, IT is tending to, Zoom, all these different packages you've got. That is a growth technology. So it's mixed.
They also asked, and I think you kind of answered it, but they wanted to know, are they seeing the traffic that they need to make the effective hires, not just the application number, but the good people?
Again, it's very industry specific. The one thing I would ask you to think about is being very intentional about where you want to hire. So what medium are you using? Are you going and working through an agency? Are you working on through job boards like Indeed and so on? It depends where you want to go in order to get the best grouping. I've heard that around 80 to 90% of hiring is done through LinkedIn. Hirers using that tool. That seems to be one of the most effective ways of hiring.
So we had somebody ask, they said they're exploring the possibility of starting a small business with 3 to 5 employees. They'd like to offer benefits as part of their compensation, but it's so cost prohibitive. Have you seen any good alternatives to paying for benefits? And is there a way to assist the employees without going broke while doing so?
Great question. And what I would refer the person to is the appendix, where we have a tool in there for helping you work through those conversations. Benefits can cost you an awful lot. And once they're in, they're very hard to take out. So you may have to think about how you do this, how you scale it. You may want to start with a contractor to start with, and then move, once you know you've got a good person, and then move into a more permanent arrangement. Healthcare seems to be a huge one, particularly at the moment, of course. There are various options that you can go to. But what I would really suggest is, make an appointment with a mentor from school, talk through the math, so that we're really clear about what the business can afford. And it's going to be a scaling thing. You may start with one person first. The 3 might come next year. The 5 might be 6 months after that. Caution makes sense. But trying to do something around that, if you can, is good. But beware, because it does cost an awful lot of money. If you go low when it comes to benefits, again, when market picks up, you're going to lose people. So it's finding that pivot point between it being attractive and not bankrupting you. And that's where the financial modeling really comes in.
If anybody has any other questions, I'll give you the opportunity to put them in the chat box. But so far, that was the last question. So we'll give you another minute and then we'll see where we are.
Okay. Don't be afraid. Please reach out. And I hope I didn't use too many English words that nobody understood.
So somebody asked if you have run into people asking about resources of how to get their employees to and from work during this time, and is safety a concern?
I haven't personally. I would say you'd probably be looking at some sort of busing, if you can, depending on where people live. I would be very, very intentional again. If I spoke to a taxi firm or a bus firm, what are their hygiene standards? What are the requirements? What are you providing PPE to your employees? I know the chamber provides that for small employers as well. So do think about, wherever you can, minimizing the risk. What I have found is that a lot of people are too afraid still to go back to work. And one organization I spoke to just the other week, in fact, said, you know, I had a number of people who would have been ideal for this job, but they just don't have the confidence to return to the workplace at this point in time. And that's challenging for an employer. All you can do is be as attentive as you can around protective equipment, cleaning, you know, going back to that earlier slide, disinfectant, wipes, masks to protect people. That's really all you can do.
I think that was our last question so far.
Okay.
I'm going to thank everybody for being here, and thank you to our sponsor and to our speakers. If you're interested in more webinars like this, please visit the Chamber's page, their website, and go to the events calendar. We're always adding new things very quickly. And if you haven't already, the Chamber's proud to be a part of Recovery Lancaster. If you haven't visited recoverylancaster.com, please do so. Sign up for the newsletters to get all the news to help your business. And also on there, if you have 100 or fewer employees, you're eligible for a free PPE kit. Please go and claim them. If you've already claimed one, you can claim another. There's a lot of PPE to go around, and we're happy to get it out there. I want to thank everyone again. As a reminder, this recording and the presentation will go out afterwards, so you can look for that later today. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.